Hey guys, it's Marty and welcome to Two Line Slot Cars. This week, we're just going to do a box opening. I got something in the mail, something I've been working on for quite some time. I've had a million conversations. I have warned some people out, asking questions about what analog controller I should buy. And I finally ordered one, so let's open up the box. So yeah, guys, I have struggled to decide what type of analog controller that I wanted. I've looked at everything, I feel like, online. I've looked at inexpensive controllers. I've looked at really expensive controllers. And I finally settled on a controller this past week. And I ordered it early in the week, and it came in today. And so let's open up the box, check it out. We talked a lot about it on my live stream, so a lot of you already know what controller I went with, but there are a lot of options out there. Quite a few really good controllers, and depending on what type of racing you're doing, I felt like this is the one that fit my needs the best. So let's open up the box. That came in a Baldwin Reserve. Nice. In the box, this came from Cloverleaf Racing in Michigan. Basically, my friend Josh said, hey, they've got them in stock. I was looking at a couple on eBay, and I decided to go with Clover mainly because I'd never really purchased anything before, and I would like to get to know those guys. They host the Michigan 24. I'm not near fast enough or good enough driver to think that I could ever jump in that race, but now that I have my own analog controller, you never know. But I wanted to support one of the retailers that have them in stock. As soon as I ordered this, I saw that Slot Car Corner had them in stock. I've been talking to Jim from DeFalco, and months ago, trying to decide. He's got such a waiting list. I just had some great conversations with him. Great guy. So I went with the DD302 DeFalco. And so let's check it out. Clear handle, red circuit board. This thing is awesome. I love it. I really like the look of it. Fantastic. So let's dive in, shall we? All right. It comes with the alligator clips. Now, some tracks use XLR. That's really handy because then you don't have mistakes unless somebody's got their controller 3-pinned incorrectly. So the alligator clips makes it really easy. I have connected controller wrong a couple of times. I don't know if I get in a hurry, I get nervous while I'm racing. I don't know what causes it, but I've done it a few times. Hopefully with the new one, I'll get used to it. It's my own controller. It uses the Parma handle design, which I really, really like. It's comfortable in the hand. I have the 1-finger trigger. I may order the 2-finger trigger. I've heard good things about it. A lot of people that use it. It's pretty nice. So let's talk about the details of the 302. You have some options when it comes to DeFalco controllers. What I liked about the 302 is they've added a feature that I think will be really important as I learn to use this controller. So if you look at the controller, there's 3 knobs. You have a sensitivity knob, you have a brake knob, and you have a traction control knob. Now, this really isn't a review per se because I don't have a way to plug this into my track. So this is not really going to be a review. We're just going to go through the features really quick. Maybe once I get to a place where I can run it on my track, then I'll do a more detailed review. So sensitivity, this first knob. What I understand about sensitivity is it really changes your ohm rating across the 30-band rheostat. So it's very smooth action. Gosh, I really like it. Man, it's nice. But from full brake, you've got 30 steps to full throttle. And what the sensitivity knob does is it basically lowers that transistor resistance. So a lower ohm resistance is a faster response. And so that's what you're doing between fast and slow. So your ohm rating At 0 is slow. Your ohm rating on the sensitivity scale of 10 is fast. John Albright gave me some hints on how to set that sensitivity. Basically, he said, put a car on the track, find a speed with the trigger where you can get around the track without deslotting. And so I think with fast. It was all the way to the left, off. So at the lowest ohm rating. And then turn that sensitivity to the point where the car comes out of the slot. And when it comes out of the slot, then back off of that just a little bit. You want that car to stay right in that slot, and that'll give you a place to start with the sensitivity. Now, I think it's all trial and error. It's going to be different based on the car that you're driving. It's going to be different based on the track that you're driving. But I think it kind of gets you in the ballpark. So that's sensitivity. Just understand that it's an ohm rating. The more ohm rating you have, the higher ohm rating you have, the more resistance, the slower your response. So you're really just in that linear from off to full throttle. It really is about how the resistance moves from brake to full throttle. Now the brake is what it is. Full brake, let out on the trigger, and car should stop on a dime. Brake off, let out on the trigger, and your car should coast to a stop. Without playing with this, without having it plugged in, I don't know what the difference between off and full is, but we'll figure that out and find a good place from the brake setting. So I think brakes are pretty self-explanatory. Now the traction control, what I understand about the traction control, I think it's kind of hard to explain because people say it's just another form of sensitivity. But what traction control is, puts your throttle on a curve. So from brake to full throttle, instead of that being a linear pull on the trigger, it is a curve that it comes into the throttle slower on a curve to full throttle. And what that does is a lot of people call it anti-slip. Traction control, as you exit a turn and jump back in the throttle, it will slightly slow that throttle to full automatically for you. Okay, now there'll be a lot of people who say that if you really knew how to drive, you really wouldn't have to use it, and maybe that's true. But maybe as we get a little older and our response is not quite as fast as it was when we were younger, maybe traction control comes into play and maybe makes us a little better driver, because instead of braking traction coming out of the turn and coming out of the slot, you can adjust that to soften that acceleration coming out of a turn. Okay. And so it's sort of like sensitivity, only instead of it being linear, like sensitivity is, traction control is on a curve. Once I get it plugged in, we'll test it out. Feels great in the hand, very smooth. The one thing that I do like about this, I've tried a few others, like the Slot It. I'm really starting to get used to the Slot It. Dusty's left it here. I've used it on the digital track and with the tech slot box, and I'm starting to get the hang of it. I think I've got it tuned in, dialed in pretty good for the track. What I find is running through the CU through a chip, all of its features are kind of not exaggerated, the opposite of exaggerated. They're sort of softened a bit. And so the brake it's not a great brake. There's from full to off, you really can't tell a difference. The CU wants to control the braking. The sensitivity works fairly well, but the one thing about the Slot It controller that I really didn't like was the trigger. It's really quiet and there's no resistance. This has a bit of a resistance. You can adjust the spring, I believe. It has sound and a little bit of friction. I mean, it's super smooth. I like the feel of it. And I don't get that from the Slot It because it's a magnet instead of a wiper, if that makes sense. At least the version that we have, or the Dusty has. That's kind of the basics of this controller. I'm super excited to get it plugged in, to try it out and see if it does improve some of my lap times. The one cool thing is it has this network piece right here that I find really interesting. So I could use this controller, and that basically this network is the overall ohm rating of controller, and it comes standard with, I feel like it was a 290 ohm network, and you can get lower numbers and you can get higher numbers. The higher number is going to be a little slower response. A lower number is going to be a little faster response. So it depends on what type of racing you're doing. But the beauty of this controller is I think I can use it for just about anything. I can probably use it for HO if I decide to start HO racing. I think I can use it for 124 scale, as long as I'm not big motors, I think. We can't wait to test it. Man, it would just be great if I could plug this into my track right now. I have an idea. Some cool things happening here at Two Lines. Pretty excited about, just got a lot of things going on in my head and starting to get them out on paper or out on the track. But it starts with me finally having an analog controller, so I don't have to borrow everybody's, because that's what happens. I go to the track, I borrow people's controllers, and that's what's the beauty about it. Guys are fantastic about letting me borrow their controllers. Bruce and Butch, they had loaner controllers. You know, it all worked out. But I finally have my own. Guys, if you like this kind of content, hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. Hit the bell so you get notified anytime I put out new videos. This is pretty cool. Got some cool stuff. Let's go. Let's go. Guys, go have some fun racing.